walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay, Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. We are here on amazing Thursday, getting ready to talk sports. Let's get it.
Mo, let's open with some WWE stuff. Two things real quick. Number one, WWE has entered a partnership with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have no issue with this. This is absolutely fantastic. Let me tell you about it real quick. So they are recreating Ninja Turtle action figures with WWE superstars, essentially embodying those action figures, wearing the gear that they would, like a ring gear of that character from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, for example, Xavier Woods is Donatello, and he just has Donatello ring attire on. Pretty cool. Kofi Kingston is Michelangelo. Rey Mysterio is Raphael. Seth freaking Rollins is Leonardo. Cody Rhodes is Casey Jones. And Shredder is none other than the tribal chief himself,
That's awesome.
Roman Reigns. So I love when WWE does little things like this. Obviously, it's a money move. They're going to make a ton of money off of these action figures. But Mo, I am all here for it. That was number one. Number two this morning is our fan favorite over here, Mr. Tony Khan. Once again, he cannot keep WWE out of his mouth. This time he is talking about Shane McMahon. A rumor came out about 2 weeks ago, Mo, that Shane was speaking to people within AEW, people that he had relationships with both in WWE and outside of WWE. And he was basically asking about the climate of the company. And according to the rumor and innuendo, many thought this was because that Shane might potentially want to work for AEW. Now, I look at it, Mo, and I say maybe Shane wants to buy AEW.
Right.
I don't know if he wants to work there as a wrestler. But, of course, you know, Tony Khan hears the rumors, and he has to comment on them because what more delicious tidbit than Vince McMahon's son potentially working for Tony Khan, right? So someone asked Tony about it, and Tony said, well, I've never met Shane McMahon before, but he went on to praise him. I appreciate his talent. I appreciate his accomplishments as an executive, and there's always a spot in AEW for Shane McMahon. Now, Mo, I hear that, and there is no way in the world they would bring in Shane as a performer. Do you remember the last time we saw Shane in WWE? In case you don't, it was at WrestleMania. It was with The Miz and Snoop Dogg. And Shane injured himself before he could even get into a physical altercation with The Miz. It was supposed to be an impromptu matchup with The Miz and Shane McMahon beating The Miz in a 3 or 4 minute match. And during his in-ring celebration pre-match, Shane injured himself and couldn't compete. Yeah. And Snoop Dogg had to fill in for the match and beat up The Miz. Mo, he's not going to AEW as an in-ring performer.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't think he's going to AEW at all, but he definitely, the days of Shane O'Mac, I think that's a done deal. That's over. You're going to see that. If you want to see it, you can look at old videos or whatever, but I think those days are long past him. No matter what his relationship is with his dad, I can't see him working for Tony Khan.
And if you try to bring him in as an executive, well then Tony, you are not nearly the outside of the wrestling world businessman that everyone says you are, because that is not a move any smart businessman makes.
No.
You don't put a McMahon on your executive staff.
Look, you mess around with the McMahon that way, and before you know it, they're owning your company.
Right.
You know what I mean? A hostile takeover or something like that. I just think that Tony Khan's one of those kind of guys that he's obsessed with the WWE universe. He just is. And I get it, because I'm sure he grew up watching it, like most of us did. And he won't say it, but he wants to be part of it.
I think that's the real issue. He just wants to be a part of it, Mo.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk some NBA stuff before we get to what transpired last night. It's being called the worst kept secret this morning, Mo. And that is Bronny to the Lakers at 55. Are you buying it? Is he going to the Lakers at 55, or is another team going to swoop in tonight and pluck him before the Lakers can grab him?
Well, do I think the Lakers plan on drafting him? Absolutely. Could somebody swoop in? Yeah, that's very possible. I don't know. I know there's only a couple teams that showed real serious interest, not to mention between Bronny and Clutch, they made up their minds it was only going to work out for a couple teams. So it kind of narrows the scope, because if I can't work you out and you're already projected going to second round, I'm probably not going to show a lot of interest. So look, I think there's only one or two teams that would snatch him up before the Lakers. So my gut instinct is he will be drafted 55 by the Lakers in the second round.
Which is weird, because Bronny and LeBron playing together wasn't a big deal. It wasn't, no one really cared about it. LeBron didn't care about it. Bronny didn't care about it. But yet, here we are, Mo.
And remember, it's the little things you do to appease superstars. LeBron's going to opt out, right? He's going to opt out, I believe, Saturday. I think he has until Saturday to opt out of his contract, which he will. He's going to opt out. But right before he does that, do you want to make him feel a little bit better about things, or you want to appease him? You draft Bronny, right? Because they went out and drafted the player they wanted in the first round. But now I think they're drafting Bronny for the bigger picture in terms of their relationship with their father, getting him to re-sign on the extension.
Speaking of the Lakers' first round draft pick, Mo, let's get your instant reaction to it. What did you think of it?
I gotta be honest with you. It's probably one of the best draft picks they've made in recent memory. I don't watch a lot of college basketball, but I did happen to watch a lot of Tennessee basketball, and Dalton Knecht, he can play. He can flat out play. If you look at his skill set, because I've heard people say that he has a skill set similar to Reeves, to Reeves. He does, but I think that he's a bit more physical. I think he's a better shooter than Reeves, and Reeves is a good shooter. I like his style because he can get downhill. He's sneaky athletic, and if you're trying to complement your two best stars, what do they need around them? Shooters. He is an out-and-out shooter. And he's 23 years old. And normally in this climate, in this NBA, that tends to scare teams away, right? Because you're looking for the standard, a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, or somebody like that. He's 23. He's ready to play right now. I don't think he's one of those things that you got to develop. I think he can jump into training camp, and he's going to find a role in the rotation immediately. I think he's that kind of player. Like, he got picked 17th, but in this particular draft, I could have seen him going top 10 easy.
It's funny, Mo, because the Lakers, you made a good point. This might be one of their best picks in recent history as far as the kid, as far as the fit. But the Lakers cannot stay out of their own way sometimes. So two things happened after this pick. One, of course, the media is going to bring up the comments that LeBron James made in regards to Dalton. I don't know when it was. It was recently, though. And he said how much he loved the kid's game and he's watched the kid and all this stuff. Mo, you put a microphone in front of LeBron's face and you ask him about any college player. I feel like he's going to give you kind of a similar response. If you know what I mean, like, because LeBron's not going to put himself in a spot where he doesn't know who the player is. So if it's any player that's halfway decent, LeBron's going to be, generic complimentary comments about the kid in basketball. So that was happening. And then this, which I understand that JJ Redick doesn't have a lot of coaching experience, Mo. I understand that. But I am so freaking tired of hearing about this app that JJ Redick is going to have for the Lakers. And then last night, after they draft Dalton, what is the report coming out of LA? The moment Dalton was drafted, JJ's drawing up plays for Dalton on the white. Stop it. No, he is not, guys. We know that JJ has never coached before. Stop trying to make it look like he is some sort of coaching savant with his app and the plays that he is drawing up seconds after Dalton was drafted. He's already cooking in the laboratory. Stop it.
They go over the top. They did. The reports were the Lakers war room. As soon as they knew they were going to get the pick, they jumped up and down, and it was and that might even be true because I think it is a good pick. But I'm with you. I think it's a good pick. I think it's a good fit. If he's what I believe him to be, what they believe him to be, he's going to help them. This idea, though, that they're just going to go into training camp, come out of training camp, go to the finals, win a championship, and go off into the sun, because that's an early build to the craziness of the narrative. And look, trust me, there are Laker fans, and then there are sane Laker fans. I happen to put myself in the latter category. The Lakers are a team that's in the middle to bottom of the West looking up at younger, more talented, more complete teams. And they've got their work cut out for. And then there's older teams like them. Golden State's trying to make a move. They're trying to bring in Paul George. The Lakers are one of those teams, Chris, that they get talked about a lot. And they end up being like the 6th or 7th seed, but nobody's talking about the 1 or 2 seeds. And I guess that's just life with the Lakers. They got something right. Stop right there.
Still got to. You're good.
Right. You got something right. Stop right there. You still got a first-time coach, and everything can line up perfectly until JJ gets out there, and the first time something goes wrong, or he's in a disagreement with somebody, or he runs hot and gets into a player's face, whatever. You don't know what it's like till you're actually out there. And it counts and it matters. Or more important, maybe you're on the road and you're being booed. JJ's never been heckled before as a coach. And the guy's right behind the bench like, Redick, you don't know what the hell you're doing, or whatever the case. Or somebody's like, Redick, why are you even here? We all know LeBron's coaching the team. Like, when that happens and you have to deal with all those things, then we can judge JJ Redick on the kind of coach he is. But right now, all this stuff right here, this is just dress up. We don't know what they're going to be when it's all said and done.
And Mo, that could happen at home. We may have to go on the road for that. That could happen at home games, depending on the current climate of the team and what is happening in certain game situations. You mentioned the Warriors. Let's talk about it. They apparently are very interested in Paul George. The rumor and innuendo is that they're willing to give him a 4-year max deal if they are able to acquire him. So let's talk about, first of all, the fit. Do you like the Paul George fit with the Golden State Warriors?
Oh, he would absolutely be a perfect fit for them. His skill set, because remember, he's coming to their system. So he would elevate what they have on the wing on both sides of the ball. And depending on who they move, I have to assume that if they were going to get Paul George to make the money right, they're going to move Wiggins and maybe someone else. But yeah, he would be an upgrade. And remember, if they make a move to acquire Paul George, this isn't about Paul George. This is about Steph Curry. This is about saying Steph is still playing at an elite level. We could go one of two ways. We could talk about rebuild, or we can milk out the last 3 years of Steph's career and maybe squeeze out another title. What, like the title they got against the Celtics a couple of years ago, Chris, that surprised everybody. It did. We didn't see it coming. And I think they think we're not a dominant team anymore, but can we grab lightning in a bottle again and maybe get another title? Absolutely. You just saw Dallas go to the finals, and even though they're a good team, they're far from a dominant, perfect team. So I think this is all about Steph Curry. They're going to go, no, we gotta milk Steph until Steph's done. And if I were Golden State, I'd be thinking the same way. Like, Steph's not done. He's still at a high level. If we can put a Paul George with him, with Draymond, and some of the other pieces around you, because they do have two young players in Brzezinski. I like what they did with him. So I'm looking at Golden State, and I understand why they're trying to make that move. They're looking at the West, and they're saying, if we can make this move, we're back in the picture again. And I think that's why they're doing this. This is literally about getting the most out of what you have left in Steph's peak.
If Paul George comes in, is Klay on that team this season or next season?
So here's the weird thing. As a Lakers fan, I should say I hope not, because I don't want him to have all that. But as just a basketball fan, I really hope so. I hope so. I hope Klay Thompson goes, yeah, I'm not going to get the money that I wanted, but I'm still going to get a pretty good deal. And if I stay along with Paul George and Steph, we could be special. We could. I know that's a tough sell, because you're saying, well, Paul's getting his money, but at some point you got to be realistic. Right now, today, is Klay Thompson better than Paul George? No, I don't know if he ever was better than Paul George, but he's not peak Klay Thompson either. But could he help them? Could you imagine that lineup? Absolutely. Remember, Klay on a bad year, if you want to call it a bad year, I would call it an inconsistent year. Still shot 39% from three in an inconsistent year. But now with another shooter, another scorer, and a shot creator on the floor, I think that would make him that much more effective. So, look, as a basketball fan, I hope they can find a way. If they can pull Paul George over to add him to Klay, Draymond, and Steph, that's an interesting team to watch.
Let's talk about the Knicks last night. The Knicks picked up not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 picks. They got 5 second-round picks between 2025 and 2027 from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then the Thunder ended up getting the 26th pick in Dylan Jones at that 26th. So what did you make of that move? That's a lot of picks. 5. I know there were second-rounders.
Right.
But it's a lot. 5 picks is a lot of picks.
It is, but OKC's got like 500 picks.
They do.
They've got picks to blow. And those are second rounders. I'm not even talking about all the first round picks they have. I think it's a good move for the Knicks, because you can stockpile those second rounders and maybe use them down the road for maybe a European talent that you want to store somewhere. And they might turn around and use one of them today in the second round. And for OKC, I think he's a good pickup. Again, it's a Sam Presti move. Sam Presti, to me, in many ways, even though he's not the coach, he's the GM, his eye for talent is very much on par with Jimmy Johnson's eye for talent when he was the Cowboys coach. Jimmy Johnson's greatest asset wasn't his coaching ability. It was his eye for talent and his ability to galvanize players. That was his greatest gift. And Sam Presti can look, and he can see a guy that you and I would look at and go, he's okay. And Sam Presti could go, he's okay now, but he'll be a stud in 2 or 3 years. So it's a great pickup for OKC. They got another pickup earlier in the draft. They're going to be a whole problem in the Western Conference. They really are. And if they can add a big, what they're missing, the only thing they're missing on that roster, Chris, is a big. And I'm talking about a big with some legitimate size. If they can add some size to that front court, they're going to be a whole problem.
So they're calling it the French Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
They're calling it the French Revolution.
Yeah.
We saw where the Hawks went with their first pick. You had Wemby last year. We know the route that NBA basketball is going, and people have different opinions on it. But the European player has never been more prevalent in the NBA than the last 6 or 7 years, and it's not going to change anytime soon. If you look at the talent that you're bringing in from overseas, what do you make of the Hawks' first pick? Do you think do you think it was the right move?
I do. If you're looking at what his top side in terms of what he can be, his his peak is as high as anybody's in the draft. So if he can reach that peak, you're going to get somebody. I'm not going to say Wemby like, but somebody maybe a watered down version. But you're looking at a perennial all-star if he can reach his peak. That's how good he can be. And I would say the same thing about the number 2 pick with the Wizards with Sarr. Sarr is the same way. It's funny because the European thing is unique because most of the European players, Chris, they're big. Mm-hmm. They're big people. Like even Luka. Luka's 6'7". He's legit 6'7". But everybody else, they're 7-footers who don't move like traditional 7-footers, and that's what makes them unique. The way it's a wave, but it's not like it's a wave of point guards or perimeter players outside of Luka. It's really a wave of bigs, these very unique, skilled, agile bigs that are coming in. And look, it's one of those things. I think it was it Paul George or it was some NBA player said the American players better step their game up because the Europeans, they're playing basketball at 6, 7, 8 years old. By the time they're 13 or 14, Chris, they're playing against grown men.
Yep.
And by the time they're 18, they're that seasoned because they've been playing in a Euro league and a professional league against men. Yeah, it's a wave, but I don't think it's one of those waves that's going away anytime soon.
Let's talk about the Wolves and the Spurs a little bit. Minnesota gets Rob Dillingham. San Antonio gets a 2031 first-round pick and a 2030 pick swap. Man, that's a ways away, Mo.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, if I'm Wemby, I'm like, that means nothing to me.
Correct. Absolutely right? Nothing.
That means nothing to me in my life or I'm going to be well into my career when that guy shows up. So, whatever.
Like, I don't even know how those. Well, we can give you a 2033. Nope, not acceptable. 2031 or no deal. Fine.
Right.
Fine.
2030. Mind you, I want you to think you're a Spurs fan. We get that 2031. Like, Pop won't be there, buddy. Like, you will have a completely different coaching regime by the time that pick comes around.
Well, the rumor and innuendo is that Ingram wants to stay with the Pelicans. We don't know what they're going to want to do with him. What should the Pelicans do with Ingram?
BI is a tough set. He's tough. In a perfect setting, I think BI would be a terrific number 3. I don't think he's a number 2. But the way the Pelicans are built, the way they see things, he's a 2 to Zion's 1. I would move BI. I would, because I think Trey Murphy can step into that role. I think Trey Murphy, he fits better in their scheme too because he can stretch the floor with his shooting. He's a better athlete than BI. I think they could trade BI and get back value. You know what I mean? Maybe not as a talent-wise, not an equal in talent, but I think they would get back value that would be a better fit with what they're doing.
No, I agree with that. Jimmy Butler news. Jimmy Butler is going to hit free agency in 2025. He said that it doesn't matter what happens this year. I'm not signing an extension with the Heat. If they move me, I'm not signing an extension with a new team. Butler is going to be a free agent in 2025. So, Mo, I have to ask you, what does the market look like for a free agent Jimmy Butler in 2025?
I don't know, because as good as Jimmy is, or he's been, this will be 35, 36-year-old Jimmy Butler with more wear and tear on his body. And I have to believe that he's going to miss some games like he always missed some games. What is that going to look like? Like, if I was Jimmy or whoever his agent is, I'd be like, we need to sign that extension.
Right.
I'm just being real. Like, he's talking the way somebody that was 27 or 28 should talk, right? Because you have everything still ahead of you. Jimmy's 35, going to be 36, and he's not a young 35. Like, his body, he's got a lot of wear and tear on him. I'm a huge fan. I would not hang it out there like I'm just gonna go through this season, mind you, put more wear and tear on my body, and then put it out there like I'm a free agent, open for business. I'm not saying that he wouldn't still be able to help a team, But I would have to believe that he would go into there, at least his mental would be like, I'm looking for a max deal.
Right.
I'm not giving 35, 36-year-old Jimmy Butler a max deal. Like, the only team that should even consider that should be a team that one has cap space. Two is like, if we add Jimmy Butler, we're going to the finals. Other than that, I'm not signing Jimmy Butler. And I love Jimmy Butler, but I'm not signing him to a max deal. It's an interesting gamble. And it's not, I get it. If it doesn't work out, it's not like, well, he's broke. Jimmy's made a ton of money in the NBA, but usually the way this works, you don't get to get older and maybe not as productive and get a raise. That usually doesn't work that way. I mean, LeBron's an outlier because he's gotten older, but his production is like literally the same. So
Right.
The outlier is him, but he's not LeBron.
We saw that the Nets trade Mikal Bridges the other day. Now we find out that they intend to give Nick Claxton a 4-year, $100 million deal. What do you think of the deal? Is he worth that kind of money? Do you like what appears to be step one in the rebuild now that Bridges is out the door? They're kind of split in Brooklyn on this, Mo.
I like Nick Claxton as a player. I've told numerous people that I think he would be an excellent fit in various teams and various schemes because he's one of those rare bigs, Chris, that he can play, defend the paint, but he's agile and quick enough to where he can guard in space. He's very unique. I think Bam Adebayo is maybe the only other big that can play in space as well as he can. Having said that, though, you just got rid of Bridges. You got a ton of picks. You're clearly in a rebuild. As much as I like Nicholas Claxton, he's not a centerpiece player. It's not like we signed Nick and now we're going to build around Nick. And I like Nick. I'm not saying he's not worth $100 million. I don't think he's worth $100 million in that situation. You're going to be a bad team again. You're going to be in the lottery again. And I don't know why you wouldn't do a sign and trade, because Nick Claxton does hold value because you're in a rebuild. That doesn't make sense to me. It's a weird signing because it doesn't do anything in terms of wins and losses in the bigger picture. He is a complimentary player. You signed a complimentary player to $100 million deal, but you don't even have a star player. You don't have a 1 or a 2. Like, I don't know if I'm a Nets fan, I'm like, I don't know what this is supposed to mean. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I want to sell my season tickets. What are we doing? Like, this is not good. I'm not knocking Nick Claxton because it sounds like I'm killing him. I'm a huge fan. I'm simply saying this signing would have made sense if you told me Nick Claxton did a sign and trade and he went to Oklahoma City.
Right.
That would make sense to me. Or if he went to Milwaukee, that would make sense to me. You're giving him $100 million and he's going to give you 11 points, 11 rebounds, a couple of blocks, and you guys are going to win 25 games. That doesn't make sense to me.
Let's go from $100 million to $212 million because that is what the Knicks gave to OG. Mo, that's a big money deal, 5-year extension. After signing the deal, OG said that he had other max offers. There were other max offers on the table, but he wanted to help the Knicks build a true contender in New York, saying all the right things that you would want the guy you just gave $200+ million to. But Mo, would you have given him the money?
First of all, I love how you try to play humble after you agree to a $212 million contract. Like, I just want to come back and help the Knicks build a title contender. Like, it wasn't even about the $212 million. I would have done it for $211. But
right, they forced me to take it.
Right. But they did for taxes reasons. And look, I think OG is a key piece to what they did this season. What he gives them defensively, what he can give them offensively. He fits their scheme perfect. It was imperative to me that they re-sign him, but that's a huge number for a player that's probably going to give you 16 to 18 points per game, maybe 8 to 10 rebounds. He's going to be an elite defender, but that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a guy who's not your number one option, Who's not your number 2 option? Maybe your number 3 option. All I can say is, look, throw out the money and just look what he does for them and the fit. It's an excellent piece. The Knicks, to me, with the Bridges signing and the trade, they're going to be a tremendous team if you don't look at the money. But it's hard not to look at the money because is OG better than Julius Randle? I think he's a better fit for the Knicks. But is he a better player? I don't know that. And I'm not a huge Randle fan. I'm just looking at the money and going, wow, like normally you see that kind of money and you go, man, they must have got Ant-Man, or they must have got Shea, or it's a lot. It's a lot. Like I just made a point about Claxton being a complimentary player. That's what OG is. OG is the difference between OG and Claxton is Claxton's left-handed. And maybe OG's a little bit more of a scorer, but they're both complimentary players. He got paid like he's coming to be the savior. Like if he got paid $212, what is Brunson going to ask for? $260,
right.
$270? Like that's all I'm saying. I don't get me wrong. You want to keep your guys. So I'm not here to argue about keeping your guys. But man, and he goes, well, I got other offers for a max deal. Like, I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that. Maybe 1 or 2 other teams, but come on, man. You knew damn well when the Knicks offered you $212, you didn't have to go, hey, I'll call you guys back. I got to ponder on this. Like, you knew, like, they went for it. We're going to sign that. That's crazy to me. That's even Knicks fans have to be going, that's kind of crazy.
It's a little crazy. It's a little crazy.
I'm just asking because people were making a big deal of Bam Adebayo getting the extension with the Heat for like 166.
Well, that's where we were going next because
Bam got the max.
Right.
Bam's much better than he is better. I don't care nobody. He's better than OG. He is outright. And Bam got 160 something. Crazy.
Let's talk about night 2 of the NBA draft. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Bronny James and where he ends up until he is finally off the board. Outside of that, is there anything else that you are particularly keeping your eye on? Obviously, the Warriors are someone to look at. Are they going to move Clay? Are they going to move Wiggins? Are they going to do something with Chris Paul? Those are all players that could potentially be on the move from the Warriors. Obviously, we don't think anything's going to happen with LeBron tonight. Like you said earlier, we anticipate this weekend being when he officially opts out once the dust kind of settles from the draft and we kind of see where things are looking. But what are you looking for to transpire tonight? And do you think that any team is going to make a big swing tonight in the second part of the draft?
I'm hoping for somebody to make a big move. But I think for me, I'm just looking for those kind of players that when we were watching March Madness, the ones that were part of those deep runs, like the young man from South Carolina. I'm looking at those kind of players to see where they get drafted or if they get drafted. I think there's a potential that there'll be some moves, some trades, but I don't think there'll be nothing major tonight. The funny thing is about this being the second round, I really literally think that everybody's tuning in just to see where one guy gets drafted. That seems odd to say. It does. And probably in the history of the NBA, nobody's ever said, I'm watching the second round. Just you know what I mean? Like I think even if NBA scouts and beat writers are like, they probably like, yeah, I don't care about the second round. You know what I mean? But they're tuning into the second round. Literally, the second round is all about Bronny James.
So, Mo, obviously, you got LeBron James in his impending free agency. We think he's going to opt out. We think he's probably going to go back with the Lakers, but he still is technically going to be a free agent. We got Paul George. Outside of those two, kind of once the draft wraps up, and now we're going to forecast to the next wave, which is going to be those free agent signings. Take those two names out of the equation and take any potential trades out of the equation. That leaves the free agent market to look like Klay Thompson, Tobias Harris, James Harden, Gordon Hayward, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
Even though the Bulls are apparently working on a deal for Rosen right now. Your favorite player, Buddy Hield. Those
my guy.
KCP. those are kind of the names out there. Obviously, some of the bigger names that were being floated around, those are your trade guys, not necessarily your free agent guys.
Right.
But when you're looking at that list of free agents that we just threw out there, who are you looking at as a potential game changer if they get onto the right team? Because really, the big names being floated outside of those top two, LeBron and Paul George, the other big names are really trade names. You're talking
Right.
about, Trae Young from the Hawks. You're talking about if the Cavs do something with Mitchell, which it seems like they're not going to do. It's trade pieces. It's not free agents. So looking at the free agents and trying to figure it out, do you think this is going to be a situation where they wait for the trade action to happen? Because outside of those top two, you don't really have game changers, Mo, on the free agent market. I mean, I like KCP, but at this point, I mean, I don't think he's going to completely move the needle on the next team that he's already on a title contending team. It's
Right.
not like he's going from, a team that's lost the last couple of seasons, then he's going to join a title contender. He's already on one. So with his situation, if he goes somewhere else, you're basically taking away from one title contender and probably adding to another title contender.
He would be a great fit in Dallas.
But aside from that, I don't see a lot of needle moving names out here as far as the free agents go.
I don't either. I mean, I think there's a couple of guys, but not a ton of them. Like, look, even now, in his mid-30s, DeRozan is a bucket. He's still giving you 23 points a game, still getting to the foul line 8 or 9 times a game. I think he can move a needle if he decided to take less and go to a contender, or if he does a sign and trade and go to a contender. But you already mentioned that Chicago's working on a deal to bring him back. I don't understand that, because, again, you have to have a plan. And DeRozan and Vucevic, that group with LaVine, those three, they've been together now, I want to say 4 or 5 seasons, and nothing has happened. You have to realize that doesn't work. They don't work, not as a group, and they don't work for the most obvious reasons. You don't have a natural pecking order. DeRozan's not a 1 at this stage in his career. He's more like a 2. LaVine, I don't know what LaVine is. LaVine has the talent to be a superstar, but he's not that guy. I think LaVine is probably better coming off somebody's bench. He's just not reliable as being the guy. And then Vucevic, he was always at his best. He was a watered down version of Paul Gasol. He's gotten older. He's become actually a worse defender. I don't know what you do with that. At some point, the GM in Chicago has to look up and go, we have to let this go. We have to get some draft picks. They have to do the hard thing. They have to do what the Nets are trying to do, because keeping those three together, what is that going to get you? Maybe the 7th seed, so you're fighting for the play-in, but you're paying all these guys over $100 million? I don't get that.
All right, well, let's jump to some NFL stuff here. Let's start in Miami with quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. So we know that Tua has an upcoming contract. They are currently trying to negotiate his new deal in Miami. And unfortunately for the Miami Dolphins, you are in a situation where you might have waited longer than you probably should have. The longer you wait to give someone a deal, if other deals are getting done in the meantime, that is going to hamper what you are trying to accomplish. So a report came out yesterday. It was via Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald, but it actually started with ESPN's Jeff Darlington on NFL Live. And Jeff Darlington stated that the Dolphins are, quote, dug into their position that they will not pay Tagovailoa a Jared Goff-esque contract. Remember, the Lions signed Goff to a 4-year, $212 million extension with an average annual value of $53 million. Darlington explained in his report that Tua Tagovailoa made it clear that the market is the market, but he said that after Goff's deal and before the Lawrence contract, which was the whopping 5-year, $275 million extension that tied him with Joe Burrow at $55 million, which is the highest annual salary for a quarterback. So, Mo, I look at this and I say, Miami, you could have gotten this deal done before the Goff deal. You knew that the Goff deal was coming up. You knew that there were talks of Lawrence getting a deal. You know that Dak doesn't have a deal yet. You know that all these deals were on the horizon. So it would have been in your best interest if you were the Dolphins to get the deal done right after the season ended. That way you were going off of the last deal that was signed last year, because it's how it works. You go after the deal. You go after the most recent deal that sets the benchmark. Then the Goff deal happens, and Tua says the market's the market. Then the Lawrence deal happens, which eclipses the Goff deal. And you look at this and keep in mind that the money is the money, but some of this isn't real money, because you got to talk about guaranteed money. Some of these numbers are just bloated and they're not really the number. So, and I think Tua probably has to realize that. And if he doesn't, I'm sure his agent is going to help him understand that. But at the same time, you're looking at a guy that his entire NFL career, he's been told what he isn't. So his first coaching regime didn't like him, and the world knew it. And then he comes in and he gets Mike McDaniel, and his first year with Mike McDaniel, while he's healthy, he has the number one offense in the league. His second year with Mike McDaniel, he plays an entire season. He's at the number one offense in the league. His numbers keep going up year over year. And he's still being told, you're not the guy. Injury history. You can't win big games in December. Miami's 0-2 in the playoffs under Mike McDaniel with you as a starting quarterback. Even though you missed one of those games, you still haven't got that playoff win. So, if you're Tua mode, do you look at this and you're like, and now they want me to not make as much. Now they won't give me Goff money. Now they're saying, even though that's the market, they're not going to pay me the market. This looks like another one of those things where it's like, you're the guy, but you're not the guy. And maybe that's a part of it. Maybe that's not a part of it. But Mo, I look at it as someone, and I can remove my fandom here. I agree with Tua. The market is the market. If you think he is your franchise quarterback and you think he is the future of this team, then you got to pay him what the market dictates. And you might be able to give a little bit of a haircut, but I really think your wiggle room for the haircut was months ago. That was the wiggle room. When the season ended, 3 weeks later, had you dropped a big offer in his lap with a bunch of guaranteed money on it, and maybe instead of making, $53 million a year, he was making 47 a year or 46 a year. I think that's where you would have got it. I think that's where you would have got him to sign that. I think he would have been okay with it. But you wait all this time, and Goff gets 53, and Lawrence gets 55, and it's not even the question of, is Tua better than Goff? It's not even the question of, is Tua better than Trevor Lawrence? It's the question of, is Tua your franchise quarterback? Because if he's the franchise quarterback, here's what they're making, Mo. And it's that simple.
And I think his number, I had his number in my head, Chris, after the season. I thought they're going to sign him to an extension where he makes around $45 million annually. That was where I thought he would be in my head. And like you said, Goff deal comes down and Tua says the market's the market. And what perfect timing, he says that, and then right after that, the Lawrence deal comes out. The market is the market. I mean, look, the Dolphins, to me, it's real simple. You've got to pay him somewhere between what Goff got and Lawrence got. He's got to at least be between them, right? Or somewhere around there. If you're not going to give him that money, then he's kind of like Dak Prescott, right? So you're telling me I'm the guy, but I'm not the guy, right? I think Tua is the guy. I get it. He's not the prototypical. He's not 6'4", 245 pounds with a rocket thunderous arm and all those, standing tall like Peyton Manning or whatever. And yet I'm looking at how he runs the offense, how he fits with the offense and what he's done the last couple of years. They haven't had the number one offense in the NFL by happenstance, by luck. It's been consistent, and it's because of the talent that Tua that he is as an individual talent to go with the talent around him. if you don't have Tua as your quarterback, who's your upgrade? Who's your immediate upgrade? I know it's tough for people to say Tua's a franchise quarterback, but I think he is. This is a different era of football. He's not a top 5 quarterback, at least not yet. He's still young enough to where he could be, but he is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, operating the top offense in the NFL, and you've got to pay him accordingly. That's what I believe. I think it's that cut and dry, and yet they make it complicated because they want to say, well, he's the guy, but I don't know. We're not going to give him a golf-like deal. So you're going to give him a Lawrence-like deal? Because
right.
Sure he'll take that. He'll take that too. He'll take that too. You should have gave him a golf-like deal when you could have. Now, I'm just saying that, and I don't think Tua's trying to be greedy. I think he's sitting there like, this whole time I've been in the NFL and people told me what I couldn't be or could be. The line has always been the market is the market. Well, that's why we pay him that, because that's what the market is. He's literally just saying, I want to be paid accordingly to the market. That I have no problem with that. Why shouldn't he be paid that way? I'd be interested to know what the Dolphins' response is.
Right, because if your response is no, then you're basically saying you're below market. And if that's the case, why are you going to make him your franchise quarterback? I think the other thing at play here, Mo, is it's the injury history. And I think it's valid. So I don't know what that looks like, but you can offer him the Goff deal. Or maybe you're just under Goff. So Goff's at 53, Lawrence is at 55. Maybe coming at 50. Maybe coming at 50 for Tua, or even match the Goff deal and have some outs in it for injury stuff. That way you're paying him and you're protecting yourself. Or come at it and say, listen, we're not going to give you 53. We're definitely not giving you 55. We'll give you 47, 48 and make it fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
Say, listen, because you can't have it both ways. You can't pay him less and then also be like, if you get hurt, you're not, you can't be all team favored here.
Right. Because obviously the plan is not to come into the season to get hurt.
Right.
And to be fair, or you could come another way. We'll give you 47, but we'll put a bunch of clauses in it that if you hit a certain peak here, right? Like if you win a playoff game, that's worth it.
You'll get 60 a year.
Right. If you win a playoff game, that's worth another $5 million.
Right.
So little incentives. You could do something like that, incentive based. If you throw for 4,000 plus yards and 25 or 28 touchdowns, there's a 500,000 in that. You could do a lot of creative things to get him to that money because I think he would hit all those marks. The key one would be if you said win a playoff game. That's the only thing he hasn't done, but I think they're going to do that. So I think they need to be creative in their thinking, but they also need to meet him at least halfway, and I don't think they've done that yet.
No, they haven't. And again, would he take 47 a year fully guaranteed? I don't know, but I think he would consider it. If you said we'll go 5 years, 47 a year, and it's fully guaranteed, that's a lot of pressure off a guy that's dealt with some injuries in his past.
And that he'd have to think about this. He's from a big family. He's starting his own family. He'd have to be like, that is securing his family's future.
Correct.
And maybe he has to come at it with that angle.
All right, Mo, your boy, Brandon Ayuk, he had a quote, good meeting with the San Francisco 49ers yesterday, and apparently everyone is moving forward. Mo, I like to read between the lines in these situations, and what that says to me is that the front office told him to cut his crap, and now you're staying on the team this season, and if you keep it up, you're going to be like 6 on the depth chart, and you're not going to play football this season, and that's where we are. So that's what I took away from that.
Yeah, the tone was different. Good meeting.
Right.
Yeah. I think he and his representative sat down and the Niners were like, you got to stop with all the social media crap. You really do. FYI, Juan Jennings was our best receiver in the Super Bowl. I'm just saying, like, we you know what I mean? Like, we can make it to where we're not trading you, we'll keep you, but maybe this year Jennings goes for over 1,000 yards and you have like 500 or whatever. And then what do you think your value will look like out in the free agent market? I'm just saying that I think they dropped the hammer a little bit and said, we don't intend to trade you. We don't. We want to do right by you, but you got to cut out all this other crap. I mean, if you want to negotiate, just negotiate with us like men and not through social media. Because to come out and say something so plain and so generic, good meeting.
Good meeting.
Yeah, that's so somber.
All right, we're gonna end on this. We got some WNBA stuff here, and of course it's about Caitlin Clark. So let's just jump right into it. So we know the narrative coming off of the most recent game between the Fever and the Sky. That game did a whole bunch of numbers. Their peak audience at one point was just over 3 million or just under 3 million people. I think their average audience for that game was like 2.2 or 2.4 million people. A whole slew of numbers ratings wise for that game. If you look at the top 10 rated WNBA games this season, 3 of them involve Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. So coming out of that game, it's just furthering the narrative, Mo. And a lot of this is by fans of Angel and anti-fans of Caitlin Clark that, it's not all Caitlin Clark. It's not all Caitlin Clark. You look at Angel Reese is involved in, 3 of the top 10 highest rated games this season. People want to see Angel, this, that, and the other thing. But Mo, you got to look bigger than just the top 10 rated games this season. And here's the number I want to give you, because I think this number is the most telling of all the numbers. Caitlin Clark games. Doesn't matter who she's playing. Doesn't matter what network it's on. This is Caitlin Clark games across every network. All her games have been aired. This is Caitlin Clark games across every network this season. 1.18 million viewers on average. Every other game in the WNBA that doesn't involve Caitlin Clark, the average viewership is 424,000. I'm not saying that other women don't have fans. I'm not saying that people are not tuning in specifically to see other players not named Caitlin Clark. I'm not saying that other teams are not growing and finding success, because they are. I believe the Chicago Sky's ticket sales are up like 20% or something, or attendance is up 20% from last season. That is growth. That means ticket sales across the board. That means attendance across the board. Those aren't just Caitlin Clark home games. Those are all the games throughout the year. So yes, more people are coming to WNBA games. More people are tuning into WNBA games. Keep in mind that average number of 424,000 is higher than last year's overall average number of all the WNBA games. And Caitlin Clark didn't play in any of those games last year.
Right.
So the average numbers in general, even when you're not talking about Caitlin Clark, are up from where they were last year. The sport is trending in the right direction, Mo. But that being said, I don't care why they're doing it. But when her games are averaging almost 1.2 million viewers, and it's 3 times what the games that she is not playing in are averaging, she's driving the bus. She's not the only one on the bus, Mo, but she's driving the freaking bus. And you don't have to say she's the best player because she isn't. And you don't have to say that other players don't have fans, because they do. But just like the market is the market in the NFL, the numbers are the numbers and the ratings are the ratings. And when one player's games, no matter who they're playing, no matter what time they're playing, no matter what network they're on, 1.2 million, and the rest of the league isn't even close to that, it says something, does it not?
It does. And she's polarizing, right? And you and I both know she's got a huge following. And I don't want to say everybody tunes in to root for her because I think because she's polarizing, I think there's a strong amount of people who tune in just to see if she's as good as they say she is, right? Like, but the point is they are tuning in, right? They're tuning in. You're going to have haters out there who are not fans of hers. They're going to tune in too, right? And they're going to go like, well, she only got 18 points because she took 19 shots. Well, whatever the reason is, they are tuning in. And I've been watching more than my share of their games. And what I've been seeing is she's getting better. She's getting stronger. She's getting more and more acclimated to the physicality of the game. I'm not saying she's about to have a huge surge through the season, but I think I'm looking at what she's done this season, Chris, and I'm like, when she gets her first real off season and she can get in the lab and she can get into the weight room and she comes back, I'm going to be really interested to see what her numbers look like in season number 2 versus season number 1. But look, just on her draw, like I said, you're right. Angel Reese is a draw. There's all kind of young talent out there. There's some established stars who have fans, and yet it's kind of the 6 degrees of separation. It's all connected to you know who. And I know a lot of them can't stand to hear that, but it's not a harsh reality. It's just reality.
And it's okay with it just being reality.
Right. And here's the scary part, Chris. What will happen if she becomes anywhere near what we think she could become as a player? Like, she's not the best player in the league, but what if she becomes one of the top 5 players? That I think that just elevates her, which elevates everything else.
Mo, do you think the NBA cared during the LeBron Miami years when people were tuning in to LeBron playoff games just to root against him? Do you think they cared that the numbers were the numbers just because it was we either for LeBron or we're against LeBron, and more people were tuning in to be against LeBron than they were for LeBron?
Right.
No, the NBA didn't care.
They did not care.
The number is the number, and LeBron was the number. And I'm not saying she is anywhere near what LeBron is to the NBA for what she is to the WNBA, but the number is the number. LeBron brings people to the TV screen, whether you love him or you hate him. He brings viewers. Caitlin Clark brings viewers to the TV screen, whether you love her or you hate her. Go give me any other player. Give me any other player in the WNBA. You can pick anyone you want, and let's pull up their numbers this season, and let's look at how many viewers they are bringing to the screen, Mo, because the only time their number comes close to Caitlin Clark's number is when they're playing Caitlin Clark.
100%.
So if that's what we're talking about, what are we actually talking about?
She brings viewers, but by bringing viewers, Chris, she also brings sponsors.
Yeah.
That's money. That's real revenue. And like you said, your ratings go up. Yeah, when you play against her. I'm just saying.
All right, bring us to the end on a Thursday, sir.
Hey, thank you guys for joining Chris and I this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at the Wire to Wire Network. We are growing, guys. We appreciate you. Stop by our page on Facebook. Give us a sub, a follow, a like. We are growing. It's because of you, Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow. We're going to break down night number 2 of the NBA draft and everything that comes out of it as a result. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show, powered by Wire to Wire.